So after week three's big win at Wisconsin, which players really saw their stock rise?
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson with the HSA Radio Network. That's me. Jimmy Stein with Bama Online. That is him, as always. And this episode is brought to you by Game Time, and I'll tell you about Game Time in just a bit. And also want to thank you everydayers and you newbies. Y'all are the best. We appreciate you joining us all the time. Jimmy, you do it every week on Bama Online. You give your stock ups and your stock downs, and that one's usually harder to stomach because typically when you do this, you're kind of struggling. But, maybe we'll start with the stock down so you can just sort of get it out of the way. And I think that everybody's thinking this, so nobody's going to be offended.
I found a good cop-out this week other than –
You found two good cop-outs, actually, because your first stock down is Graham Nicholson. And that is fair because here we are as Bama fans thoroughly excited about this young man. Still am. But he did go in and missed his first field goal attempt of the year. And, on the heels of Wisconsin's guy making like a 50-something yarder or whatever. Right. And so we're sort of like, hey, maybe we should have gotten Wisconsin's guy. And then, of course, he goes on to miss one. I'm just teasing about that. But it is also that Graham Nicholson won the coveted Lou Groza Award over our own Will Reichert. And that does make it seem a little worse. I don't know why, but it does. And then the second stock down you had, and again, we're not going to spend a ton of time on the stock downs, but I felt like let's go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off, was college football officiating, not necessarily for something that happened in the Alabama game, but for some things that happened all over college football, one being the LSU South Carolina game, which was just so poorly officiated, it probably all came out in the wash. And Georgia, Kentucky, which had several calls which had people just scratching their head. And we're not, saying the SEC is protecting anybody or doing any of that. Of course we're not. Danny Cannell is, but we're not. And I feel Danny Cannell seriously said that this morning. But I feel like it's just gotten so bad that it's hard to deal with sometimes. And then I could go back to the South Florida and Alabama game with the targeting, and which really didn't seem like targeting to me, but whatever. So rant away for a minute.
Yeah, I'm not really ranting on Carson, on Graham Nicholson. I had to include him in stock down because I got to include somebody, and he's kind of obvious because he missed, his one kick. But what I don't want to give anyone is the impression that I don't think he's good, or hey, he just hey, that could be his only miss all season. It was a long kick. It wasn't a chip shot on the road. Coach DeBoer said it was a little windy. Maybe that wasn't properly factored in. He barely missed it. It was a good looking kick. He just barely missed it. Look, my big thing is I want to include in the stock down a little pep talk here. We're about to play the first game this year that may very well be decided on a kick. I mean, it is so conceivable that the Georgia game, it may not come down to a kick at the end, but any game in which there are kicks, in which it's decided by 3 points or less, comes down to a kick, right? This game against Georgia could so easily come down to a kick. I have complete confidence that Graham Nicholson would make that kick. I'm glad he's Alabama's kicker. I'm excited to have him. And I also think what we don't talk about enough is Connor Talty, who struggled this past spring. He sort of proved there was a need to go in the portal and find a kicker because he had struggled so much this spring. Hey, when Alabama signed Nicholson, he obviously put his head down and went to work, because there's a lot of reports that he's kicked the ball really well in fall camp. He's won the kickoff job, so he's contributing to the team's success every week. Here's a kid who didn't quit at all. When they're like, hey, you're not good enough, we got to go get another guy, he's like, I'll show you. And I'm excited about what Connor Talty might bring to the team next year. But Graham Nicholson is a good kicker. And as far as the SEC officiating, I really feel like it was so bad in Columbia. I mean, even guys like Chris Fowler and Josh Pate, national analysts who are bright guys, even they brought up how bad the officiating was in South Carolina, LSU. It helped change the outcome. Not the first time with that crew either. that specific crew where people have said their bad calls help change the outcome of a game. And I just want the SEC office to show that they are addressing this in some manner and aren't instead just defending the bad calls. That's what we don't want to see, is some sort of blanket defense of all calls. That's not, I don't think that's good for the game or the sport. I think the fans that pay for all this want to know that the games are being officiated as well as they can be.
Yeah, I think that all that is very fair. And look, officials already get a lot of unwarranted criticism. It really sucks when they get warranted criticism, because that it's hard to defend the other stuff when you do bad stuff and nothing. But anyway, let's get to stock up. And, the first one on your list is one that I think we're all fired up about, and that's Caden Proctor. That's why I put him in the thumbnail picture. His stock is up, not necessarily because he's better than last year, although he is, but I think it's also just, is he going to be better than last year? And we're like, we don't know. We think so because you love his size. You love everything about him, all the measurables, all the recruiting rankings. But, you're wondering, okay, maybe we're thinking too much of him for his recruiting, which we've done that with players. But he actually played really, really well. And another thing to note, this offensive line has only given up, I think, 6 sacks total, whereas at this point last year, it was 12 sacks. And you also have to factor in that some of the sacks were, I think one of them, at least this past weekend, if I remember right, was against Ty Simpson. At least one of them.
Yeah, Ty was sacked. Yeah, one of the sacks was Ty with the second-team offensive line in.
Yeah.
Tremendous improvement over last year. I think Caden Proctor deserves some credit for that. He's only played in one game. But look, with these highly recruited guys, how often does this happen with the real highly recruited 5-star guys? They show up, they're immediately not Ryan Williams. Ryan Williams is the exception to the rule, not the rule. He's the exception to the rule. How many of these 5-stars show up and they're like, he's not what I thought. But then in year 2 or year 3, but oftentimes year 2, you're like, aha. That's what we're getting with Caden Proctor. Just like all normal humans that play this sport, he needed a minute to adjust from high school football in Iowa to the Southeastern Football Conference. And now he's done that. And I think what he did Saturday was remarkable. Let's remember, he hadn't played a football game since Michigan in January. He didn't get a spring practice like everyone else did. He's playing with a new body. As we all know, he looks dramatically different than he did a year ago. Even if his weight is approximately the same, he looks much different. And, man, he didn't look like – I would say it's not his best 60-minute game. His best 60-minute game, in my opinion, was against Georgia in the SEC championship game last fall. I thought he might have been the best lineman on the field that day. But this was one of his best 60-minute games, and it was a first game on the road against a quality team, and he hadn't played football in 8 months. I think Caden Proctor is now slowly going to start living up to all that 5-star plus hype. Mute.
Yeah, I know. I muted, and I was trying. You always end your sentences quicker than I can fix everything. But
Sometimes I have to sneeze.
Yeah, that's true. So who else is on your stock up list, Jimmy? Because the only one I've read so far is Caden Proctor. Because
yes, I went a little shorter.
I don't
this
like
week.
to read more than a page or two.
I went a little shorter this week because on one of them I included several players, and that's the tight end group. And really, this is a product of my rewatch. For those that read on BOL, I rewatch the game and comment on. I know this sounds crazy, but I do comment on every snap at the entire game, at least a sentence. After the rewatch, I noticed specifically the two primary tight ends, C.J. Dupree and Robbie Ouse, that play the most snaps with the ones. They're blocking fantastic. I don't know that I saw a miss. I mean, if there was a miss, I admit to missing it myself. There were some critical snaps too where they made crushing blocks that led to big plays. So really, Dupree and Ouse blocking is what led me to mention, hey, stock up the entire tight end room. Because as I'm thinking, hey, I think I'm going to include Dupree and Ouse for stock up this week, it occurred to me, oh, yeah, another tight end in the room caught a 37-yard touchdown pass, and Josh Cuevas, his first one. And if we saw how easily he did that, we know that that's not going to be his last touchdown at Alabama either. So that tight end group is bringing us high quality blocking and a pass receiving threat. Hey, it would be nice if it was one guy. It'd be nice if it was Brock Bowers or Kyle Pitts or Trey McBride, who plays for Arizona. He's on my fantasy team, so I threw him in. If it would be nice if it was one guy, but if you don't have that, what you need is a mix and match group of guys who are good at their thing. And I think Alabama's tight end room is as good as anyone's for that reason.
I love how you said that about the tight end room. You sounded like a late night infomercial. Do you like tight ends that block really well? Do you love it when tight ends catch long passes? You're going to love Alabama's new tight end room. And if you act now, you get 3 tight ends for the price of 1. All right. We're going to be back in a second to tell you about some national awards that some big Bama names won. But I'm going to tell you about FanDuel. I do it just about every day because they're such a good sponsor and we love them so much. You've heard us talk about FanDuel all the time, America's #1 sports book. That's what it is. Well, we have something a little different for you now. Through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every single regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment. And you can cancel anytime, yo. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sports book and do that today. I also want to tell you about Game Time. Look, there are very few things that I've been as passionate about as I am about Game Time. I love me some Game Time. I've used it for NFL, used it for college football, baseball, NBA, college basketball, World Series, concerts. Used it for – did I say college baseball? Because I've used it for that. I don't know. Sometimes I forget what I said.
I was there the night you did.
You certainly were.
Yep.
I just love it because it's made going to the game so much easier. I used it for Alabama, Wisconsin, and I know some of y'all used it for Alabama, Wisconsin because you told me you did. And that's why I appreciate you so much out there. Look, go download the Game Time app. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. It's just so easy. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Look, download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time.
That was a fantastic end to that last live read. The game, the what time is it game time thing?
I really put my whole chest into it, didn't I?
You're going national with that.
Okay. So some guys that we're very familiar with won some national awards, and I'm going to lead with the punter, James Burnip, because you know why? Because when I went solo for this thing, Jimmy, right after the game, I brought up James Burnip because during the game, even during the game watching, I was like, this guy feels like he's not one of the best 5 players on the field. We know that. Okay. But he seemed like he had one of the best 5 days in a day when a lot of Bama dudes had great days. He had 3 punts for over 50 yards, including a 64-yarder. He totaled 246 yards on 5 punts, which is almost averaging 50 yards a punt. And I think one of them was like purposefully shorter than the others, trying to pin them deep. And so he was selected as Ray Guy's punter of the week. Look, I think this guy's going to be a first-team All-American when all's said and done.
He's fantastic. I mean, if you think about it, look, the last thing an offense wants to do, turn over the ball. Other than that, the second worst thing an offense can do besides turn over the ball is go 3 and out because you're not giving the defense a break. You didn't gain any field position. You're giving the other team good field position unless you're Alabama with that Australian punter, James Burnip. Because if you're on your own 20 and dude punts a 60-yarder, the other team, now they're on their own 20. He flips field position. And when you go 3 and out, I cannot exaggerate enough how big that is, that you have a punter that can still flip the field. Doesn't matter where you are on the field, he can flip it. the other team's not going to have a short possession, even if your own offense is trying to help them. And Alabama's not going to be going 3 and out all the time. It's not like Iowa's punter last year, who hilariously was the first punter taken in the draft because he got so much practice, and he's actually a heck of a punter. Troy Taylor, he punts for the Bears, and he's Australian like James, so he's unbelievable. Burnip's the next guy. He's the next Troy Taylor, and I'm telling you, I think Burnip is going to be drafted, and I think that's the highest praise you can give to a punter. But Burnip's going to be drafted, and I don't have the time, but I'd love to go back to 2021 when he was punting at Alabama for the first year and go back and find some posts from fans saying about how we need to run that guy back to Australia, because he wasn't good in year one. He wasn't. But these kids get better. There was every reason to believe he was going to get better. I don't know that anybody saw this coming. But these kids get better. And Burnip has improved more in his career than he probably even more so than Blake Sims, who before Burnip was the most improved player I ever saw at Alabama from year 1 to year 5 or year 4, whatever it was. Burnip is the most improved player we've had since Blake.
I love like if you've ever seen his roster picture, the one where they actually wear the suits and the ties and stuff, he's got this look about him like, I know I wasn't very good a while back. I'm good now. And he sort of got his head tilted just a little bit. And then I also checked, by the way, I knew he was tall. I didn't know he was 6'6".
Yeah.
I
think obviously, I guess that height, that long leg probably helps from some sort of leverage physics thing that's going to be over my head.
I mean, yeah, but you would also think that it hurts in terms of drawback to, get that thing without scraping the ground.
I guess, but if you think about it, there's a lot of short kickers in the big leagues. There's a lot of short kickers, but there's not many short punters. Can you think off your top of your head, like, that's the best 5'6" punter I've ever seen? I don't think.
Well, you want a large catch radius, especially if Seth McLaughlin's snapping it to you. I'm teasing. I know he wasn't snapping. I'm teasing Mr. McLaughlin. I'm not mad. But then the other thing on his 24/7 profile page, y'all have one for each member of the team. And like usually they have these great informative things that says high school athletic background, to say he won this award and he was a 4-star by this service, 5-star by this service. He's this, that, and his girlfriend was this. And for y'all's write up on his high school athletic background, it says James Burnip is a punter from Australia. It's like all stuff we could have gotten earlier. In fact, you have him listed, and this may be a city, but y'all have him listed from Australia. Like he's more Australian than Crocodile Dundee at this point.
Thanks for attending our TED Talk.
All right. And then, of course, Jalen Milroe won some big awards this weekend, too. And he should have. He won the Earl Campbell, Tyler Rose, Manning, Maxwell, Davey O'Brien, Reese's Senior Bowls Player of the Week.
He was even a Wisconsin staff Player of the Week.
Well, and what's funny about it, I mean, it was a great game, and it, he accounted for 5 more touchdowns, but he was only 12. He was 12 of 17 for 196 and with 75 yards rushing. I'm going to tell you right now, he's going to have much better games than this. There's no doubt in my mind.
That's the greatness of Milroe that we're seeing now, that now he wins national awards, and a lot of Alabama fans are like, I've seen him play better than that. You know what I mean? And he was great. As a matter of fact, I think the 3 touchdown passes, those 3 passes were outstanding. And I think that's one of the reasons he's winning these awards. The highlight plays, the ones everybody have seen, he's throwing dimes on those plays. The passes to Ryan and Jeremy and Josh Cuevas spreading around the touchdown passes. Those were great throws. He also had highlight plays with his legs. But no, I agree with you, Luke. He's got bigger games coming statistically, and we've seen him better statistically. But, man, that dude is racking up the touchdowns. In terms of touchdown passes and his own rushing touchdowns, it's things like that get Heisman attention. And I've seen Jalen almost universally this week from national guys, not Alabama fans or us at BOL. I'm talking about national analysts. They all have Jalen on the Heisman short list right now. and he hasn't even played in the big stage game like he's got coming up against Georgia. I do think that if Milroe has a monster game against Georgia, he will lead the Heisman race the next day. If Carson Beck has a monster game against Alabama and Georgia wins, he may lead after that one. That's how big this game is. Everyone's going to watch it. Funny joke today, Luke, I heard, shout out to my pal Craig Stevenson, who writes for AL.com and covers the South Alabama Jaguars. I was listening to him being interviewed today on a local radio show, and the guy said, hey, isn't it cool? South's going to play LSU, and, that game's going to be on national TV. And Craig's like, it comes on at 6:45 on SEC Network, the same time Alabama plays Georgia. So the only people watching that game are going to be South Alabama players' parents and a handful of LSU fans, hardcore LSU fans. The rest of the world's going to be watching Alabama play Georgia. That's so true, and I hate it for the Jags that they're on ESPN or SEC Network, and very few will watch. But Jalen's playing fantastic, and he's played well in all three games. Again, I'm not saying he's monstrously better, but like I promised all spring and summer, he's 1 year better, and that's a big deal in this sport. It's normal for kids to make a good jump year to year, and Milroe has. He might have even made a bigger jump than that. We'll know when he plays better defenses, and one's coming up for sure.
Yeah, he's going to have much better games. I'm telling you right now, and I don't think there's any doubt he's going to be. I believe there's not any doubt. I believe he's going to end up being in the Heisman discussion, like in the final three. That's me right now. I might change my tune later on. Who knows? But that's the way I believe right now.
I predicted he would be a Heisman finalist before the year started. I didn't predict he'd win it. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he does win it. But I thought he'd be a finalist. And I think he's headed that way now. But it's way early. It's crazy early for that sort of talk. But I'll say this about the Heisman all the time. This is so true. You can't win the Heisman in September. You can't.
You can lose it.
You can lose it. You can lose it for sure. He has not. He hasn't done anything to lose it.
We got to go over some of these visitors that are coming in for the Georgia game. That list is going to grow and grow and grow. But some of these we just got to go ahead and mention. Okay, but I'm going to tell you about Roy first. Look, I've already got my app downloaded, right? You can see the Alabama on one of those. I can't do this mirror image thing. But Roy is fantastic. In fact, I talked to one of the dudes over at Roy just for a minute today. They are so excited about the partnership with us, and you're going to be excited about this. Look, I just clicked on the app, and automatically you can find some guys that are with the University of Alabama that you may want to contribute to. And so far I'm seeing Jalen Milroe, Ryan Williams, and Xavier Brown, but I mean, they'll have a lot of other names on there. You just have to scroll through, and because I'm trying to do this live read as correctly as I can, I'm not going to give you all the names, but they'll all be there. Look, it gives you a way with this new platform to get involved in NIL like never before by making contributions directly to your favorite athletes. So, if Ryan Williams does something you love, maybe you want to shoot a $5 bill to him, say, buy a coffee on me. Maybe you want to shoot $20 to him or whatever. Or to James Burnip, you want to give him $50 saying, hey, I love you and your long legs. That's awesome. By supporting players directly, you can help shape rosters, retain talent, and keep your favorite athletes out of the transfer portal, which y'all know keeping players is going to be huge. NIL has changed the game for athletes, and Roy changes the NIL games for fans. Roy stands for Return on You, by the way. Look, it also gives you exclusive content access. When fans contribute to a successful campaign, they receive access to exclusive content from that athlete, such as their announcement decision, behind-the-scenes footage, and other personal reflections, all of which are available only to the fans who supported that athlete. There's no risk here, by the way, y'all. Fans' contributions are securely held and are only distributed if the athlete makes the decision that aligns with the fans' support. So if you are worried that you're going to donate some money to somebody or send somebody some money, and they're like, oh, I'm scared he's going to transfer next week. Well, if he transfers, you get back. Not if he's not there, the money's returned to you. So that is so cool. Look, go download Roy, that's ROY, for iOS or Android, and enter referral code Locked On, and you'll be automatically entered into a sweepstakes to win $5,000 cash. Get off the sidelines. We need y'all doing this. Get off the sidelines and into the NIL game with Roy. I'm telling you, this is going to be a blockbuster thing. Man, I really do love this Roy idea. I mean, I know that it's like my job to try and sell this stuff, but I'm so excited about this. And I think once people get into this and like they see James Burnip have one of those punts, one of those punts, and when he pumps it out, I think people will be like, you know what, I'm going to send $10 to him just from my app, for my part.
So I'd be like, I'm going to donate $1. I'm going to donate $1 for every yard that Burnip punts in this game. And then at the end of the game, they're like, oh my God, I'm broke.
Oh my God, yeah. It's like when Michael Scott thought he was donating 25 cents per book, and he was donating 25 cents per mile that kid walked. He said, how many miles did he do last year? And he was like, 25. He goes, oh, good God. Yeah, anyway. So,
doesn't take much to get me laughing about office
stuff. Doesn't take much.
Oh, gosh.
So when it comes to the visitor list for Georgia, this thing is going to grow and is going to be huge. Now, I'm going to start with basketball and say AJ Dabanasta is going to be there. Okay. Wow. Now,
BYU is going to be mad.
BYU is going to be so upset.
We make these jokes on BYU, but it's just true. BYU has massive NIL money, and they want this kid. And there's the rumors out there about the AJ Dabansa and BYU. They're real. It could happen.
And it could happen. But, just having him on campus is unbelievable. And I think we said this yesterday, not trying to make a political statement. Trump is supposedly going to be there, whether you like him or hate him. And it seems like those are only two ways to go these days. You can't deny that means that is about how it affects the significance of the game and the importance of the game on a national level. And it wouldn't shock me now if Harris tried to come too, and like both of them were just on opposite ends of the stadium. Ooh,
I don't think
that'd be some stuff, wouldn't it?
I don't think she's going to make a political appearance in Alabama. That's my prediction. That's another one of my 4 predictions for Thursday, which is another BOL thing. I'll throw that one in.
Throw that one in. Yeah,
she's not going to the SEC states for a political appearance like the other guy. Well, no, the only thing I just when I heard my initial thoughts because I'm this way all the time is, oh, it's going to take forever to get in the stadium.
Oh, swear to God, that's what I thought too. I'm like, I don't care if you come or not. Could you just hover over the stadium or something? Because it's going to take a while to get in.
Watch from the Trump blimp or something, because it's going to take. I mean, and I like. Hey, I'm greedy. I like being in a position where I can walk in 30 minutes. I go like, okay, well, the game's at 6:30. I'm gonna be at the stadium at 6, so I can get in my seat. I get in at 6, go to the bathroom, go to my seat, and I'm all good. 5-8 minutes for kick. Not this time.
All right. So I'm going to run down this list really quickly because we're running out of time for making all of our
list from BOL.
I'm going to give it to you straight from BOL. Now, there are a lot of commitments. I'm going to skip them for now, but the big ones are all going to be there, like Keelan Russell, or is it Keelan Russell? I think that's how everybody's been saying it on TV that I've been watching. Keelan Russell.
Yeah, I think it's Keelan. I've been saying Keelan. Boy,
it's Keelan. So, and then the 227 kids that are committed that were just named in the top 100 of rivals, A.K. Deere, Dijon Lee, Caleb Cunningham, Ty Haywood. All right, here's some other dudes that are seniors that are confirmed so far. Justice Terry, Derek Smith, Andrew Olish, who's a top 100 tight end. So, I mean, we could be taking 3 high school tight ends this year. Jaden Breaker, who is a linebacker that everybody loves, committed to LSU. Christian Ingram. He's not rated, but he's going to be rated.
That's the kid that's got the Georgia and Alabama offers.
Yeah,
right?
He's going to be rated.
If the top 2 programs in the country want you, you're probably should be rated high. That's just a crazy opinion I have.
Joseph Mbachu, who's a 4-star DL from Georgia, also committed to Florida, and Eric Smith, who's Derek Smith's brother. Then here's some notable underclassmen. Hank Jones, Tyler Atkinson, who's the number 1 linebacker in next year's class. Zion Gibson from Gadsden City, Cedarian Morgan from Alexander City, a top 10 player in the country. Samari Matthews, Josavian Currents, Tristan Keys, Caden Prothrow. No, he's not related to him, apparently. Zyke Helton, who was at one time committed to Alabama. Samuel Utu, who is a 4-star interior lineman from Orange, California. And Mark Bowman, who is from the #1 tight end from Mater Dei High School in California.
Hilton reminds me of Parker Brailsford, by the way. Just throwing that out there since you said his name.
Yeah.
There's some Parker Brailsford in Hilton. And I wonder if having Parker Brailsford will help us get Hilton recommitted because they're so similar. I mean, that seems like a good pairing there.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's the list is just huge, and it's going to grow, maybe exponentially. I mean, everybody in the world is going to be wanting a ticket to this game. And the thing that's so cool about it, when you see somebody like, it could be Derek Smith or Cedarian Morgan, for instance, who Alabama is fighting somebody like Auburn for. Well, Auburn's got a big game that day too. They play Oklahoma at home. It's Oklahoma's first SEC road game. But when you put Alabama, Georgia, it don't matter. They could be playing the Patriots, and Alabama, Georgia is going to take top billing. So you do take away a visit from some rivals' good games, which is crucial. And some of that is just look at the draw with scheduling. But, boy, this game is going to be something else. It's probably another great reason why both of them are undefeated. And while I think we all would have liked for Georgia to have lost to Kentucky just for the ha-ha factor, it's probably better overall that this is an undefeated matchup.
As far as prospects go, this really is like, who's got like the big after party at the Oscars, somebody like Vanity Fair, or somebody has some massive Oscars party when the Oscars are. This is what the Alabama-Georgia game is for prospects. It's the ultimate red carpet show for all the national prospects in the 25 class, the 26 class. All the cool kids want to be there. We're the Vanity Fair post-Oscars party, and that's what's going on. And shout out to Andrew Bone and Joseph Hastings. They work really hard putting that list together. They got to confirm with every kid on that list. They have to get in contact with them and confirm that they're going to be there. That's a lot of work.
It could very well change. Some of those guys may not show for whatever reason. I don't know why you wouldn't, because some kids always seem to not show. But
so I'm not standing in that line 2 hours to get in. Oh, that was Jimmy that said that.
Yeah, Jimmy Stein has been scratched off the official visiting list. So there goes that dream, Jimmy, finally. All right, that's going to do it for today's podcast. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.